The Salt Lake County Sheriff and the Unified Police Department. A change is coming for law enforcement.
With the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office separating from UPD, what policing could look like for these areas in the next 2 years.
A roof slide buries a 9-year-old boy in deep, hard-packed snow.
The team immediately began extracting them from the snow.
The town's marshal talks about their quick efforts to get that child to safety.
Right now, a break between storms, how high our temperatures will climb tomorrow, and also when our next storm will move in.
Flash flooding trapped a family of 5 in Snow Canyon.
But you don't know exactly where that flood's going to come or who's going to be involved with it.
And tonight, video of the incredible rescue.
What's in the air you're breathing? Fox 13 investigates 2 plants here in Utah and a chemical you need to know about.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. Policing in Salt Lake County could look different in the next couple of years. Today, Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera formally announced her intent to leave the Unified Police Department.
And that move was prompted by legislation recently passed by Utah lawmakers. Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi breaks down what these changes are and how you might be impacted.
The Unified Police Department is changing.
What this bill means, just on the surface level, is that this is going to remove the sheriff and make UPD communities go back to the drawing board about how we want to see policing in our communities.
After a recent House bill to reinforce that a sheriff can't also be the CEO of a police organization. But UPD Board Chair Marcus Stevenson says this legislation puts the department in a tough spot.
But this is going to have huge impacts in our communities. Again, this is creating concerns with our officers, with our residents, and to me it's just a huge overreach that we saw from the state, unfortunately.
According to a bill signed into law on Tuesday by Governor Cox, the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office would separate from UPD by July of 2025. But the UPD board says they hope that separation happens by July of 2024 to make sure everything runs smoothly for officers and the public.
My intent was to provide a notice of intent to withdraw from the Unified Police Department. Salt Lake County, for Salt Lake County to withdraw on December 31st of 2024, but listening to what you had to say today, we wanted that done sooner. We could change the date to July 2024 if that works best for you, because we want to work with you.
Bill sponsor Representative Jordan Tusher says the goal of his bill is to increase transparency and empower the sheriff and local communities.
We'll have more overlap now, as the county sheriff has her own deputies to patrol the entire county and ensure that this county is safe and reach her priorities and objectives. We're going to have more opportunities to ensure that people are getting the right level of policing services that they want.
But questions do remain about the reorganization process to be answered over the next months and years.
There's a huge question of, will the county council be able to be involved in any way? If they're not able to be involved, then that implies a lot onto townships. If the townships aren't involved, then that means it's just the 3 standing cities. And then is it financially feasible for the 3 cities?
The bottom line that officials want to emphasize is that law enforcement tasked with keeping people safe isn't going away. There will still be police, just organized a little differently.
Regardless of what the new structure looks like, what different communities are choosing to do within the next 2 years, policing in communities will be happening. I want to make sure that every resident knows that that public safety will be in place.
In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A 9-year-old boy is in stable condition tonight after being buried in a roof avalanche in Alta last night.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with the town marshal about their quick work to rescue the boy.
Every second, every minute counts.
Mike Morey, Alta's town marshal, says one of his deputies arrived at Superior Point condominiums just 2 minutes after dispatch received a call of a roof slide that buried a 9-year-old boy just before 5:30 on Wednesday. With the help of the UDOT avalanche forecasting team, they worked to remove the boy from under the snow.
The deputy was able to locate the person under the snow using the avalanche probe, and the team immediately began extracting them from the snow.
Getting him out in just 4 minutes' time.
What does occur when you're buried under the snow is your airway is severely compromised.
The boy, whose identity has not been released, was semi-conscious before being airlifted to Primary Children's Hospital in stable condition. While Maury says Alta has gotten about 55 feet of snow so far this winter, incidents like this aren't too common.
Snow moving around is an everyday part of life in Little Cottonwood Canyon. An accident like this is just exceedingly rare. There's always efforts underway to mitigate snowfall, deal with the amount that may be accumulating on a structure, to guard against collapsing issues, blocking of ventilation vents, and carbon monoxide poisoning.
In this case, Maury says they're just extremely grateful they were able to get the boy out quickly and safely.
We had what I would call an extremely positive outcome.
Now, while Maury told me that managing snow is just an everyday part of life here in the canyon, he did urge people to always be aware of their surroundings and the potential hazards that can present themselves with either snow or ice overhead. In Alta, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Boy, what a cautionary tale that is.
So thankful that little guy's doing all right. A lot of people right now, Allison, have that roof built up, of course, still in the higher elevations, but something to be cautious about.
Yes, that's right. Now, our temperatures over the next couple of days will remain below average, so hopefully it'll help any extreme melting over the next couple of days. Right now here in Salt Lake City, it's absolutely beautiful. We do have temperatures that are going to be quite cool the next couple of nights, so we'll have our overnight temperatures right around 25 again tomorrow morning, but it's currently 38, 36 for Ogden, 37 for Provo. Across the state right now, I'm happy to report to you, we no longer have any active alerts, warnings, watches, or advisories for our floods here across Utah. So our rivers are doing a lot better than they were last night and earlier today. At 10 o'clock tonight, temperatures will be about 25 to 35 here across the state. Throughout the day tomorrow, it's going to be a chilly one, below average by about 10 degrees tomorrow. But waking up, temperature about 20 for Provo and Ogden, close to 10 for the Cache Valley, single digits for the Uinta Basin and for Evanston, into the teens for Price and Manti, 17 for Beaver, and for St. George tomorrow morning around 39 degrees. Now we might still see a few flurries near the Arizona border heading into tomorrow, but tomorrow is St. Patty's Day. As you're getting dressed early in the day, temperatures will be cold, so grab the green sweatshirt tomorrow morning, mid-20s at 7 o'clock in the morning. Temperatures at lunchtime tomorrow still in the about 35-degree range, so right around freezing. We'll have highs tomorrow into the 40s here in Salt Lake. We'll talk more about what we can expect over the next couple of days as some more storms are slated to move in, coming up in the full forecast.
All right, Allison, thank you. The Kane County Sheriff's Office has released the identities of the 3 hikers who went missing Monday in Buckskin Gulch, right near the Utah-Arizona border. All of them are from Tampa, Florida. There's their picture. They all worked in the same practice at Orthopedic Medical Group of Tampa Bay. The first who was found alive is Ed Smith. The other 2 who were sadly found dead were Bill Romaniello and Jeff Watson. The sheriff's office says they were all experienced hikers.
Meanwhile, another group of 5 hikers was rescued late this afternoon from Buckskin Gulch near the Utah-Arizona border. The Kane County Sheriff's Office says no one was injured. They'd just become exhausted and were out of water. The DPS helicopter flew from St. George and lifted them out of the canyon and back to the trailhead. We told you yesterday how a family of 5 was rescued from a very dangerous situation involving raging water in southern Utah.
Today, Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree spoke with a member of the crew who was there at the scene at the time of the rescue.
They were soaking wet. Both the parents and the children were freezing. You could tell they were shaking.
It took 18 rescuers several hours to save 2 parents and their 3 young children from the Johnson Canyon Trail Wednesday evening.
Anytime you have flash flooding, it usually will take you off guard. Even us as responders, we watch the river flows, we watch the rain, we watch those things, but you don't know exactly where that flood's going to come or who's going to be involved with it.
Sergeant Darryl Cashin says normally this wash in Snow Canyon is dry, but flash floods turned it into a raging river, trapping the family on one side of its banks, so crews had to set up a zip line to get them safely across.
You're pretty much either got people on the east side or people on the west side. And if you're out in a place where it does cut you off, this is what happens. You end up stranded.
Luckily, every member of this family made it to safety. But Cashin says when warm rains come pouring in and melt snow up in the mountains, the desert can turn into a dangerous place.
Look at the weather. Look at the trail you're going on. Take a few extra things in case you get stranded.
In Ivins, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jenna tells us within the last few hours since she spoke with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, they've closed off the Johnson Canyon Trail until September 14th.
Governor Spencer Cox has issued an executive order on flooding. This act would give state employees paid time off to volunteer to fill sandbags or do other flood mitigation work. He also has a warning for all Utahns.
We're calling on all Utahns to use common sense. We have not had really spring runoff like this since 2011, last time. A lot of people have moved to our state since we had potential flooding like this. So it's very important to keep children away from fast-moving water. Please do not drive in flooded streets. The potential for drowning is real. Stay alert, listen to the news and weather alerts when storms are headed your way, especially if you are in the outdoors.
Always good reminders. Salt Lake County is asking for volunteers to help fill sandbags tomorrow and then again on Saturday.
It's one of the most devastating storms the world has ever seen. A cyclone in Malawi and Mozambique is impacting hundreds of thousands of people, including those with Utah ties. What we've learned tonight.
From abortion to homelessness and how Utah children use social media. The governor preparing to sign the final bills from this year's legislative session.
A chemical linked to cancer and cell mutation in children being emitted here in 2 Utah cities. What's being done about it? That's coming up.
The Utah State men's basketball team played in the NCAA tournament. Did they finish with tears of happiness or sadness? We'll tell you coming up.
The driver accused of killing 2 toddlers in Eagle Mountain last year has now been charged with murder. This man was originally charged with 2 counts of manslaughter in the deaths of 3-year-olds Odin Ratliff and Hunter Jackson. The Utah County Attorney's Office filed amended charges against Kent Cody Barlow yesterday. Investigators say Barlow was driving 100 miles an hour on a rural road with a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and ignored a stop sign. The car ran off the road and through a fence, hitting little Odin and Hunter, who were playing with their trucks in a corral. Test results showed a high level of methamphetamine in Barlow's blood.
Governor Spencer Cox has signed into law a big bill on homelessness. It requires some counties to come up with plans to shelter people during the winter. It also has something advocates for people experiencing homelessness have pushed for a long time now. It's called a Code Blue. That means during events of extreme weather, it allows shelter capacities to increase. Also, camp abatements would stop temporarily. The bill is tied to a lot of money for housing that also passed.
The governor says he does not plan to veto any of the bills from this past legislative session.
During the governor's monthly news conference today, he explained there were roughly 35 bills he had been planning to veto, but they either did not pass or dramatically changed to his liking. He has about 100 bills left to sign now, including one on social media age verification.
We will be working with those companies and third-party verification over the next year. You'll notice that those details were not put into the bill. There will be a rule-making process that we go through to determine how that is going to happen. Will there be legal challenges? Absolutely, there's going to be legal challenges. Not a net decrease. In fact, there was a net increase.
The governor has 20 days from the end of the session to sign, veto, or allow bills to go into law without his signature. That period does wrap up next week.
Take a look at this. Can you see what's going on here? This is video of an avalanche that happened during the evening commute on Cascade Mountain above Orem down in Utah County. This is just south of Mount Timpanogos and south of Provo Canyon.
Wow.
But commuters who were at least headed east, and I can't tell which road this might be, but if you're headed east, You
Wow,
saw
what a
that
sight.
avalanche today.
Yeah, Trevin Wood capturing that video for us, sending it to us earlier in the 5 o'clock news hour, Allison. And luckily, we haven't heard of, any injuries or anybody up in that area when the avalanche came down. But, for the past, week, we've had some sort of flash flooding or avalanche.
Yeah,
hit
that's
the
right.
state.
And as of right now, we have no active flood alerts or any winter storm warnings here in the state. We are headed into a bit of a break. So let's go ahead and chat about what we can expect through the rest of tonight and for your morning drive. And then tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. Maybe you have some fun plans, but it's currently 38 degrees here in Salt Lake City. Our visibility is a full 10 miles. We love that. But it's feeling like it's 32 here in Salt Lake. It's cold out there right now. Now, temperatures today below average by 10 degrees. 56 is a normal high here in Salt Lake. Today we made it to 46 only. And then a normal overnight low is 37, and this morning it was 30 degrees. So we're going to have another below average morning tomorrow. But for Salt Lake City through the rest of tonight, a live look from IMC in Murray facing north. Our temperatures will be dropping into the mid-20s under clear sky tonight. So you're going to have a cold start to your St. Patrick's Day. As the kids are getting dressed tomorrow morning, you'll certainly want to make sure they're wearing a warmer sweater as they're heading out the door. And temperatures throughout the day tomorrow will be warming a bit, but only into the low 40s for the evening drive. So cold day tomorrow. On a finally Friday and also on a holiday, we do have mostly clear sky here across the state. Still the chance for some flurries across far southern Utah into tomorrow morning, maybe a few sprinkles, but nothing that should be too problematic. And if we look at our wind gust forecast, also just very light heading into the overnight hours and throughout the day tomorrow. So we could see a little bit of a gust, about 15 miles per hour for Salt Lake, Milford, Cedar, across portions of southern and then eastern Utah. But overall, it's going to be a nice couple of days as we look at the winter storm impacts across the region over the next 3 days. We're not expecting much. However, by late weekend into early next week, we have another storm that's going to be arriving. Let's go ahead and talk about tomorrow morning first. For your Friday morning, Friday at 7 o'clock, single digits for Park City, Evanston, and the Uinta Basin. About 10 degrees for the Cache Valley tomorrow morning. Low to mid-20s for Provo, Eagle Mountain, Tooele, Salt Lake. Ogden, temperatures into the teens for Price and Richfield. Cedar tomorrow morning about 20 to 25, and for St. George, you're close to 35 to 40 tomorrow morning. Tomorrow for the Wasatch Front, temperatures will be in the mid-20s early in the day. At noon tomorrow, only 36, so it's going to be another cool day with daytime highs making it into the low 40s. So below average temperatures will be continuing. Keep in mind, 56 is normal high for this time of year. We're normally getting into a much more comfortable range than we've been experiencing. Now tomorrow throughout the day, we'll have our temperatures about 40 to 45 for much of Utah. So it's going to be a cool day across the board. If you're planning on doing anything up in the mountains, prepare for temperatures right around or below freezing for Park City. 20 in Evanston at 3 o'clock tomorrow, 25 for Vernal. St. George making it into the 50s tomorrow. Now for us here across the west, not a whole lot happening as high pressure builds the next couple of days. So pretty enjoyable but cool weather, maybe a little deceiving with how nice that it looks when you step outside and it's very cold. And then we're going to see some more chances for some rain to return into next week, potentially seeing some areas of heavy rainfall again with an atmospheric river event Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to have some more areas of concern heading into next week. But for Salt Lake tomorrow, 44 and sunny, mostly sunny on Saturday at 48. Chances for scattered rain and snow Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. More on that coming up in your Super 7-day forecast.
Allison, thanks so much. Devastating and deadly mudslides, flooding, and destruction in Southeast Africa tonight. How Cyclone Freddy affected the region and a Utah Tech student who is there. The countries of Malawi and Mozambique are reeling tonight after the longest cyclone in history. Cyclone Freddy started as a tropical depression in early February and has finally dissipated over land. The death toll in the region of Southeast Africa is now more than 400, with nearly 100,000 people displaced. One of those is Georgina Morrison, who studied nursing at Utah Tech University in St. George. Georgina returned to Malawi in December and shot this video that you're seeing here just this week. Her friends say her entire village was destroyed when Freddie struck for a second time last weekend. As a nurse midwife, she has wanted to return to her village to serve pregnant girls and women who have to walk 5 hours to deliver their babies in the nearest hospital. She recorded this video in December, the day before she returned to Malawi.
When I graduate, my ambition is to have a hospital in my community so that people can easily have access to health services, and at the same time, I can help girls in my community, like maybe the family planning method, so that they don't get pregnant while they're young.
Georgina has been trying to raise money for a hospital or medical clinic in her village, but now that her village is gone, she says what's needed most is aid, basic aid, to help her people recover from this devastating cyclone.
Oh, horrible. Utah is set to receive nearly $4 million from the Biden administration to help low-income Utahns pay their heating and cooling bills. The Department of Health and Human Services is awarding the money as part of the Low-Income Energy Assistance Program, also known as LIHEAP. The Biden administration says this increase is especially important as the nation continues to witness the effect of climate change.
We know that extreme weather events are becoming more common, and that's why we are increasing the amount of funding that we want to offer to families to deal with these hotter and colder temperatures and the more increasing storms.
To see if you qualify for assistance, go to energyhelp.us or call their hotline 1-866-674-6327. It's a chemical considered unhealthy to breathe, and Utah has 2 facilities that release it into our air. Fox 13 investigates what you're breathing.
This bill clarifies that so that those abortions can continue. They will continue in a hospital setting.
He signed a bill into law that'll ban abortion clinics in Utah. Tonight we hear from Governor Spencer Cox.
The Utah and Southern Utah women will begin their big dance tomorrow. We'll hear from both teams coming up.
How often do you think about the air that you and I are breathing right now, what you're breathing at home? Better yet, do you know what's in the air where you work or where your children go to school?
A new study sheds light on 100 facilities across the U.S. that release a chemical considered by the EPA to be unhealthy. 2 of those facilities are right here in Utah.
Fox 13 News investigative consumer reporter Robin Oginye takes a closer look.
This neighborhood on Sandy's north side is quiet. 300,000 people live within a 5-mile radius of this block. Around this area, 163 schools and daycare centers. It's also home to BD Medical. The company is among the nation's leading medical supply manufacturers. According to the Union for Concerned Scientists, it's one of 104 facilities in the country that could pose long-term health risks to those nearby.
Anyone who's just living in one of these communities might not think to look for one of these facilities or to look them up online if you haven't heard of them before.
I talked to the study's author. The report published last month focuses on a colorless, flammable gas called ethylene oxide, used to sterilize medical devices and plastics. The Environmental Protection Agency, National Toxicology Program, and International Association of Research on Cancer all classify ethylene oxide as a carcinogen. Long-term exposure could lead to cancers involving white blood cells like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and breast cancer. Most notable, the effects it can have on children.
Ethylene oxide is a mutagen, meaning that it can damage a cell's DNA. And children's cells, where the DNA is housed, are dividing more rapidly. Their cells are dividing more rapidly as they grow, more rapidly than adults, so they're more susceptible.
According to the EPA's website, in 2020, the agency updated emission standards for 2 types of ethylene-emitting facilities in the U.S. and Puerto Rico. The most common types of these facilities are called commercial sterilizers. BD Medical in Sandy, along with 22 other facilities in the country, is classified as a commercial sterilizer with elevated cancer risk. All 22 currently exceed the EPA's maximum cancer risk level threshold.
What EPA was looking at is people's risk from just breathing ethylene oxide. But as we know, we don't live in a vacuum. We're exposed to a number of pollutants and stressors every day that contribute to our own risk of developing cancer. So asking EPA and the state, are they considering other exposures in that community?
Another commercial sterilizer, Sterigenics, is a short drive away in Salt Lake City. Like BD Medical, it emits ethylene oxide, called ETO for short, but has not been identified to have elevated cancer risk. There are 26,000 people who live within 5 miles around the facility.
Ethylene oxide is kind of a new pollutant to be monitored, so there aren't a lot of instruments or chemical monitors available that are easy to deploy or like put in someone's backyard.
Rachel Eady is a scientist with Utah's Department of Environmental Quality. She says the department has been working with the EPA to reduce the emissions of BD Medical and held 2 public virtual community meetings last fall on it.
If the Department of Environmental Quality cannot tell a facility or make suggestions to a facility, hey, there are thousands of people living here that can be affected by the chemicals this facility is producing, then what can you do?
The facilities are regularly inspected for compliance, that they're controlling their emissions the way they're supposed to. And then beyond that, we're talking with them, trying to get them to install more emission controls, and they both are doing that ahead of federal regulations. We also just received funding to do more sampling in the coming years, and that would hopefully help assess this risk in a more temporal, timely fashion.
That's been my whole life, my whole career.
That sampling is happening with the help of University of Utah professor Rod Handy. Along with graduate students, they use data to track how much ethylene oxide is emitted.
What we are able to do from the company data that's been given to EPA is to be able to look at the stack and the fugitive emissions that they report. That is the first thing that we modeled.
The clinician has to connect the tubing.
BD Medical did let us inside their facility. Our cameras weren't allowed to film most operations due to proprietary concerns, but we were able to ask about how they plan to tackle ethylene oxide emissions. In BD sterilization areas where the ethylene oxide is used, there are monitors that measure ETO levels. Before it reaches an unsafe intensity, an alert is triggered. They're utilizing methods recently tested at their own plant in Georgia.
How is it better now than it was before?
Today, all of the air in that post-sterile warehouse gets collected through the technology and run through these systems to remove those residual trace amounts of ETO that could be left in the air, and treats that. And so that's, if these systems behave the way that the ones in Georgia do, we'll see a 90 to 95% reduction in those emissions.
Those new controls were put in place just 2 months ago.
We have to still validate those to verify the emission reduction, but once those are validated, we'll be able to say that we are below that risk threshold.
The EPA is set to update their ethylene oxide emission standards later this year. Until then, the Union of Concerned Scientists say don't wait to do your research if you're concerned.
We think that anyone who is in proximity to this chemical that also tends to stay in the air for longer than some other toxic chemicals, that people should know that, and that the state and the federal government should be taking steps to adequately notify people of the risk.
I also reached out to the commercial sterilizer in Salt Lake City, Sterigenics. I asked them their thoughts on the research and if they were doing anything about their ethylene oxide emissions. They sent us a statement. It reads in part, Sterigenics is proud of the critical role we play in safeguarding public health by sterilizing millions of essential medical products across our facilities each year. Our facility in Salt Lake City operates safely and has consistently outperformed regulatory standards for decades. Consistent with our commitment to continuing to implement industry-leading emissions controls, we are actively engaged with local officials regarding enhancements to further protect our employees and the community and improve our already safe operations. The Utah Department of Environmental Quality posts updates on the EPA's ethylene oxide evolving standards. To learn more, you can follow the link with this story on our website. Robin O'Guinier, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We need to continue to help them fight for freedom.
A group of Utahns is preparing to go to Ukraine to help people there as the war with Russia drags into a second year. What they're hoping to accomplish.
And coming up, another storm moves in late in the weekend into next week. How you can see some impacts here across Utah.
Right now, we are tracking breaking news coming out of South Jordan tonight. We understand a 70-year-old man is now dead after falling around 10 feet at a construction site in Salt Lake County.
The South Jordan Police Department says the call came in a short time after 10 this morning near 111th South, 2865 West in South Jordan. They say the man was not or has not been identified, but he owned the construction company where that site was. One of his employees was on site and started life-saving measures until paramedics arrived. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. While a ladder was in the vicinity, how he fell has not yet been determined. The incident, of course, is under investigation. A group of Utahns is shipping out to help Ukraine next month.
They are with a nonprofit called Ukraine Unlimited. They went in October to help hand out essential items in the western part of the country. Founder Christy Arnell says a year later, the need for medications, food, and housing is still tremendous. Many people are crammed into shelters and other spaces.
So all these places, churches, schools, all kinds of things are being used to house these people. And so they need, things that we could buy within Ukraine, clothing, blankets, toiletries, and all of those types of things within Ukraine.
The link to donate money for supplies is posted on our website. You can find it at fox13now.com. The joy of learning through literature is one of the most precious things a child can receive.
It really is. And some of us here at Fox 13 News were able to help spark that curiosity today by giving brand new books to some lucky Salt Lake students. Today, several members of the Fox 13 News team helped Guadalupe Elementary students pick out 4 books for each of them to take home. The goal of the Give a Child a Book event is to encourage childhood literacy. The books were bought with donations from viewers like you, Fox 13 employees, our parent company Scripps, and several other community partners.
When you introduce something like a book fair to children and you say to them, pick something, it's opening this door of, I really could read about anything right now. And if I'm passionate about unicorns, I'm going to learn about that. If I want to learn about dump trucks, I'm going to learn about that instead. And then I'm going to get transported to a world. And then that later on grows into a love of also writing.
We hope the books will fuel big dreams and plant the seeds for future success.
All those kids are so cute. The Ogden River is on its way to be the highest it's been in years. Hear from concerned city officials about the do's and don'ts if you want to get nearby.
Coming up in sports, we'll hear from the Utah and Southern Utah women's basketball teams before their NCAA tournament games. And Utah State took on Missouri in the men's tournament. Was it March Madness or sadness for the Aggies? The highlights are on the way.
At least, part.
We are hearing from Governor Cox after he signed House Bill 467 into law yesterday. It'll ban abortion clinics and prohibits abortions due to rape or incest after 18 weeks gestation, among other things. Today, the governor said this bill was needed to clarify state abortion laws around rape, incest, and the health and safety of the mother.
The trigger law that was passed several years ago would have enacted a de facto complete abortion ban because there wasn't clarity around rape, incest, and the health and safety of the mother. And so this bill clarifies that so that those abortions can continue. They will continue in a hospital setting.
Planned Parenthood of Utah says they are exploring all options to preserve access to abortion in Utah ahead of when this law goes into effect on May 3rd.
Good news tonight for some drivers. UDOT has repaired potholes on the flyover ramp from US 40 to westbound I-80 near Park City. UDOT tells us the extremely wet winter has had a destructive effect on highway pavement. In the case of this particular stretch, the weather has led to several large potholes, meaning the asphalt had to actually be cut out and then replaced. The road was reopened at about 4 o'clock this afternoon after a 7-hour closure for those repairs.
BYU and Utah State football players helped deliver quite the protein-packed donation to the Utah Food Bank today. The Utah Pork Producers Association, Smithfield Foods, and the Fredette Family Foundation committed to donate 50 pounds of protein to the Utah Food Bank for every point scored by the Aggies and Cougars during the past college football season. Between BYU and USU, the two teams racked up enough points, leading to a whopping 35,000-pound donation.
The Utah snowpack has reached a record level for this point in the season. Take a look here. This map shows statewide measurements of the snow water equivalent, or how much water the snowpack contains. I know those numbers are really difficult to see, but I can tell you the amount of snow accumulations this year raised the snowpack to levels that have not been seen since 2011 and unprecedented for mid-March.
There's a lot of water stored up in all that snow up in our mountains in the state of Utah, and that's going to do a really nice job refilling a lot of our smaller and medium-sized reservoirs. We don't think some of the really large ones will necessarily fill from this year's snowpack, but they'll definitely get replenished in a much-needed way.
Well, officials say time will tell whether we see anything surpassing the highest record snowpack levels for the total season. And the National Weather Service is reporting the most significant river levels rising in northern Utah are the Bear River, that's near Corinne, and then also the Weber River near Ogden.
The Ogden Fire Department's Swift Water Rescue Team is ready at a moment's notice. They're also training the police department to be ready to assist if necessary. Officers are using drones to watch areas more at risk of flooding, such as Ogden Canyon and areas down in Lower Ogden. City officials are advising anyone who goes near the river to wear a life vest.
At 3 miles an hour, 9 to 10 inches of water will knock a person off their feet. At 4 to 5 miles an hour, if you're in the water waist deep, it will sweep you away also.
The fire department has 2,000 sandbags ready at any given moment and 20,000 bags waiting to be filled. We've been talking about flooding this week, but you may be wondering, what is the risk in my neighborhood?
Yeah, good question. You want to protect your own property, of course.
Sure.
Here is one easy way to find out. The federal and state emergency managers keep maps updated to show where property is at risk of flooding. Now, those maps can be found at floodsmart.gov. In addition to maps, you can also find links to tips in preparation for flooding and flood insurance.
You know who else has maps?
I have a lot of maps.
This lady right here has
unlimited maps. And I've got a map that's going to show you about our next big impact. And this is going to be storms arriving heading into next week. So we'll have dry conditions for most of this weekend. On Sunday, we have rain and snow starting to move into the west coast. That becomes a bit more widespread heading into Tuesday and Wednesday for us here in Utah. This is going to be another Hawaiian Express. We are going to have our Pineapple Express with tropical origins, and this is going to be another atmospheric river. It's basically a river in the sky just pumping that moisture into the region. So what can you expect at your house over the next couple of days? Let's chat about first at 10 o'clock tonight. It'll be about 25 to 35 degrees as you're getting ready for bed tonight. Throughout tomorrow morning, teens and 20s here across the state. We'll have temperatures right around 20 to 25 for Provo, Salt Lake, and Ogden. Close to 10 degrees for the Cache Valley tomorrow morning. Single digits for Vernal and Evanston. And we also might have the chance for some areas of flurries across far southern Utah tomorrow morning and throughout the day. Now, we are not expecting anything widespread or problematic from precipitation over the next couple of days. However, once we get into next week, With that atmospheric river event, we very well could see some areas of, again, heavy rainfall, and that's on top of the snow that's melting. Now, temperatures tomorrow, 44 in Salt Lake, 42 for Ogden, 43 for Provo. Tomorrow across southwest Utah, Cedar City 41, Ridgefield 40, St. George 57. And then getting into eastern Utah tomorrow for a finally Friday of St. Patrick's Day. Don't forget your green. I can't work because I got a green screen here. 47 in Moab tomorrow, 39 in Price, 28 in Vernal. Now our chance of precipitation is going to start going back up late in the weekend into early next week. So Sunday night through the middle of next week is when we are expecting the bulk of our precipitation. 57 tomorrow in St. George, 61 on Saturday. More chances for rain into next week for St. George. And for Salt Lake City, we're going to end up with temperatures here over the next couple of days that are going to be cool over the next few days. So for Salt Lake, 44 tomorrow, 48 on Saturday, and then you're going to see scattered chances for a mixture of rain and some mixture with some rain as well. And then by Tuesday, scattered mix and or rain. Wednesday, widespread mix, and by next Thursday, some scattered snow. So more chances of rain and snow on the way.
Utah State made their 23rd appearance in the NCAA tournament. The Aggies went in as a 10th seed, matching them up against 7th seed Missouri in the first round in Sacramento. The Aggies didn't shoot the ball well from outside in the first half, but they were still in the game. Sean Barstow throws it down. Missouri led it by 4, though, at the half. The Aggies missed their first 13 three-point attempts. Finally made one here. Stephen Ashworth knocks it down to put Utah State up 1. He finished with 12 points. Then it's Taylor Funk. His 3 is up and good. He led the Aggies with 16 points. It was tied at 39. Here's the Aggies on the break, and it's Dan Atkin rocks the rim. He finished with 12 points. The Aggies are up by 2, but the Tigers took over. Kobe Brown's spin move and the jam. He had 19 points for Missouri. Then it's Demoy Hodge drains the 3. He led all scorers with 23 points. Missouri pulled away to win it 76-65, knocking out the Aggies, who have lost 9 straight first-round games in the NCAA tournament.
Made the best memories of my life with these guys. My brothers, wasn't easy. We had our ups and downs, and just the attitudes on this team has been always positive.
These guys have given, Cache Valley, the state of Utah for that matter, a tremendous amount of joy this season because of how they handle themselves.
Utah will host the first 2 rounds of the women's NCAA tournament. The Utes are the number 2 seed after winning 25 games and a Pac-12 regular season title. They'll play Gardner-Webb tomorrow.
I think it's just a really special opportunity for us and for the whole city of Salt Lake. We have the best fans. It just makes us even more excited to play.
It's what we've all dreamed of. We all wanted to be in this predicament, and the fact that we're here together, the sky's the limit. I'm really excited to see how far we go.
Even being a 2 seed, I think you look at some brackets and we're under some people's radar, which is fun. I think we're definitely going to be dangerous. We have a really good chance to make a deep run in the tournament, and that's what we're focused on for sure.
The Southern Utah women are also in the NCAA tournament for the first time ever after winning the WAC championship. The 14-seed Thunderbirds will take on 3rd seed Notre Dame tomorrow.
The fact that we're here is just a testament to everybody's hard work, the whole team's hard work, the coaching staff. I think it's just amazing to be here.
I'm excited. That's really all I can say. From the moment we won, I've just been so excited just to get this opportunity, and I think we could do great things.
Ultimately, this has been the goal since the beginning of the season. So to see it really happening is it's an awesome experience.
Yeah, let's hope they win. We'll be right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Stick around for QuickCast.